For more now on that algae crisis, we're joined by Glenn Compton, chairman of Minnesota 88, and Mark Alderson, executive director of the Sarasota Bay Estuary Program. Gentlemen, thank you both for your time tonight. Mark, we'll start with you. What exactly happened? And before I even ask you the question, a lot of the folks watching aren't exactly experts either on algae right now, so we'll keep this at a 101 level. What happened this past summer that really put this in the news?
Well, if you put too many nutrients in the water, and with the size of the input that happened in the Indian River Lagoon from Lake Okeechobee and the other sources, which include septic tanks, you are going to get algae blooms. And they've just been exacerbated by the 20 inches of rain that we had falling on Central Florida that filled up Lake Okeechobee, and then the water had to be released somewhere. So they released it down the St. Lucie River, and so we have those massive algae blooms that took place in the river itself. But then to the north and up toward Jacksonville, other sources of pollution are causing the problems up there. And you have blue-green algae and brown algae up to the north, and they may and are probably being caused by other sources.
And so we had a state of emergency in 4 counties, including Lee County and Fort Myers, because the Caloosahatchee River goes from Lake Okeechobee. So Glenn, there's a problem in Lee County as well?
That is correct, because of the discharges that come from Lake Okeechobee. But also we have our own local problems too. We have to take a look at land use patterns that have taken place in the past. We have had some major historic mistakes in terms of the way that Florida was developed that allows for stormwater runoff to run off quickly into our estuaries and into our saltwater environments. And these are not going to be easy solutions to fix.
It's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube in this case, obviously, and you think some major habits have to change of residents to have this thing solved?
Certainly that would help in the solution. We also have to take a look at future land use plans that are taking place to make sure that they don't allow for discharges into our freshwater and saltwater environments in this area. That's a difficult thing to achieve because we're growing so rapidly. We have some land use issues that are really difficult things to resolve to try to eliminate the problem that we have today. And it's more people means more pollution, and we're going to have this problem as an ongoing, reoccurring issue.
Are you generally encouraged by what you see in Sarasota and Manatee County as far as the commissioners go?
I'm not encouraged basically by the fact that the amount of development that is being approved and the requirements for stormwater runoff and the water quality standards that have to be met are relatively weak, not only in our counties but also statewide. So we can also discuss the problem of the poor water quality standards that we have in Florida that allow for these kind of situations to occur.
But a lot of good things have happened. As you can see here by this chart, we've had significant increases in seagrasses. So as you reduce your algae in the water column, you get better water clarity, and that's what's occurring here, resulting in better photosynthesis to the grasses on the bottom of the bay, which are allowing our grasses to improve. In fact, we're above 1950 right now in Sarasota Bay. We've virtually eliminated wastewater discharge to our bay here. We only have one wastewater discharge left, which is Siesta Key Utilities, and the county is about ready to construct a pipeline to take that discharge to Bee Ridge, the Bee Ridge plant, and that discharge will be eliminated as well. We're working on the septic to sewer program. Indian River has not taken on that septic to sewer program we have here in Sarasota County, and we are about 70% complete with that system. So a lot of good things are happening. I agree with Glenn. More can happen. We have a danger of red tide here. We've seen some statistical relationships between discharges of water down the Caloosahatchee River out into the Gulf of Mexico, and red tide actually developing 2 to 4 months later. So we have to be very, very vigilant with regard to what we're doing with fertilizers, what we're doing with our wastewater and our stormwater right now, so that we can limit any impact that red tide may have on our area.
Now, your chart shows that Sarasota County has made improvements since 1950 when it comes to total seagrass coverage. Yeah. Did that happen because of some elected officials' decisions?
Elected officials that both in Manatee and Sarasota County have been pro-environment for the most part, and therefore approve the the septic to sewer program and the other wastewater programs that we've had happen in our area over the last 2 decades.
And I would have to say that local governments have come into this kicking and screaming, and with the threat of lawsuit and having lawsuits in terms of the sewage treatment plants that existed in the past. So there was a lot of citizen initiative that really wanted to see the bays get cleaned up from where they were in the past. And we're starting to see the results of that now with seagrass coverage. But we still have the issue of continued growth in the state of Florida and the increase in discharge as a result of that.
So this isn't all science. Politics are also entering this, because I heard in Christopher's piece that government officials are blaming underground septic tanks. Do you buy that?
That's a portion of the problem, no doubt. In terms of Lake Okeechobee, that's mainly an agricultural activity area, and agriculture, in my opinion, is currently underregulated, but yet one of the most polluting industries in the state of Florida. So we need to take a look at what agriculture has historically done as a land use and what kind of agriculture we want to encourage, and whether or not we can convince landowners to reduce their fertilizer applications when they grow their crops.
There's 600,000 septic tanks along the Indian River Lagoon.
Okay.
Unlike here, where most of our wastewater is under central sewer, and you can collect it and bring it to one point and then treat it and use different mechanisms to eliminate the discharge like we've done. But over there, they have about a $6 to $8 billion initiative they're going to have to undertake here to get the septic tanks under control in some areas of the bay. In the Indian River Lagoon, it depends on where you live. If you live down near the St. Lucie River, you're being dominated by Lake Okeechobee right now and the slime coming out of Lake Okeechobee. And that is predominantly agricultural sources, I think, as Glenn mentioned.
Now, in the course of my research for the show, I read that there is some reason for encouragement in that there's a aging dike, Lake Okeechobee, an 18-year process to restore it, nearly $1 billion. When will that be finished, and might that solve some problems?
I'm not sure when it will be finished. If you're looking at the federal government to fix a problem over a short period of time, that usually doesn't happen. But again, these are historical mistakes that are not easy fixes. And what we know is that if you want to reduce the amount of pollution that goes into a waterway, it's better to treat it at its source than to try to clean it up later. And that's basically what's being proposed now, is to try to fix a historical mistake.
They also have a reservoir proposed on the Caloosahatchee River to capture the first flush out of Lake Okeechobee. And that reservoir may also be big enough to, in most years, capture the entire flow. However, when you have 20 inches of rain in March, like we had in Central Florida, it's not going to capture it. And that's what we're suffering from right now.
You know, I've done a lot of stories on the government cracking down on stormwater runoff. Residents can be sanctioned if they don't play by the rules. Do you think the government's doing enough?
In terms of urban runoff, there are regulations that do address that kind of a runoff. But if you're looking at agricultural runoff, it's virtually unregulated, except for maybe dairy operations in the state of Florida. So that in itself, Lake Okeechobee demonstrates the problem we have when we have underregulation of fertilizer and agricultural runoff. In terms of telling our residents what they can do, they certainly should not be using fertilizer on their lawns. Fertilizer is a product of phosphate mining, which also has its impact in the state of Florida. There's no reason to use fertilizers. Phosphate is a very valuable resource. It's far more valuable than oil, and we shouldn't be wasting it on lawns.
Mark, 10 seconds left. Go ahead.
I think there's ordinances in place that prohibit fertilizer application in summer months. So certainly here in the summer, there's no need to put fertilizer on your lawn. So abide by the local ordinances and refrain from doing it.
Good advice. Okay, Glenn, Mark, thank you both for your time tonight. Great to have you there.